Last week, we started off week number 1, and we just talked real simply about how to make a budget. If you haven't seen that already, go back to last week, watch the YouTube video. It is on my channel. And you guys can go see that. We talked real practical, how to set up a budget, how to give what I'm calling every dollar a destination. Before we go any more forward, I want to encourage you guys to check out something. Everything we're talking about today are things that I have learned. I am in no way, shape, or form a financial expert, but I do my best to learn from the best of the best in every field that I want to learn or teach in. And I want to encourage you to check out someone by the name of Dave Ramsey. And he teaches a lot of the principles that I have learned and a lot of the principles that we're going to talk about today. And I want to spam that link in the chat for you guys. And a lot of the things, like I said, we're going to cover today are things that not only I learned from him, but are also things in a course that my wife and I went through and that millions of others have gone through to learn. It's called financial peace. And I think this thing is so creatively named because Dave Ramsey says that it's very, very rare that those two words are used in the same sentence. Finances and peace. Finances and money today are one of the biggest things that people get divorces over, couples fight about, stresses people out. But he wants to teach us how to manage our money in a way that lets us breathe a little bit easier, lets us live in freedom, be debt-free, and like I said, control our money before it's controlling us. But today I want to talk through not just how to make a budget, but talking through some real practical principles of how to manage our money correctly. So I've got my notes like I do every single week for you guys. So if you guys want to look along in the notes that I prepared for all of you, go ahead, click on that link right there in the chat, follow along. And we're going to talk through, like I said, just some simple managing money tips that I think will really be a blessing for all of us. First thing you're going to see on the notes are create a budget. We talked about this last week. Give every dollar a destination. If you don't control your money is going to control you. I want to talk through just a few tips. I've kind of put these into different categories of how we can learn simple, real practical tips on how to manage our money better. But the unique thing that we're going to talk about is I'm also going to talk about this from the perspective of a streamer or a small business owner. Because in those categories, not only are you living out your own personal finances, but you've also got to use your own money for business expenses, paying staff. For example, for you, many of you probably work at a desk or a computer. The reality is at your work, if that computer breaks, you don't have to pay for a new one. Your boss does. So how does your boss in a practical level prepare himself for those kind of things? Where's that money coming from if a computer breaks? And we're going to talk about those things, budgeting. And small business owners, they never make the same amount of money in a month. Sometimes they have really low months. If they have really high months, same thing for a streamer. How do you navigate through those? We're going to talk a little bit about that today. I've broken it down in some categories on spending, saving, business expenses for those streamers, small business or big business owners, giving, talking about taxes just a little bit, in debt. And like I said, a lot of this is going to come from what I've learned from this financial expert, which I am not, which is Dave Ramsey. And there's some questions that we're going to need to ask ourselves, which are written in the notes, that if you want to learn to manage your money, you're going to have to learn to spend your money well. We talked about it last week, that personal financial success actually has very little to do with how much money you make. It's really more so about how much money you spend. You could be making $1 million a year, but if you're spending $999,995, at the end of the month, at the end of the year, you're left with $5. That means that I have more money than a millionaire. Yeah, sure, you have a nicer car than I do. You have a nicer house than I do. You probably wear nicer clothes than I do. But I sleep better at night because I'm not worried how I'm going to pay my bills because I've only got $5 left. I'm not as worried about my future. Even though you make way more money, I am doing my best to manage my money well. And you could live a life of fresh air and freedom more than a millionaire if you are managing your money correctly. And it starts off with, how are you spending it? And the first question we've got to ask ourselves is, are you living the life you want or actually the life that you can actually afford? And this is a difficult thing to ask ourselves. And one of the things we talked about last week was I really believe that one of the biggest things you can do to give yourself a little bit more room in your budget, more money at the end of the month, is where do you live? We did some math last week and gave a tip that Dave Ramsey gives, is your monthly rent or monthly mortgage around 30% of your monthly income? Because if it's that low, that's going to give you 70% of a margin to just breathe a little bit easier. And the reality is that some of us, we want to live a lavish lifestyle, and you can do that. You can live in a nice place, and there's nothing wrong with living in a nice place. If God's blessed you, man, live in a super nice place. That's incredible, man. Good for you, dude. Hopefully more of us can achieve that later in life. But are you living it because you can afford it, or are you living it simply because you want it? Do you have a nicer place than you can actually afford, and at the end of every month, you're super tight? You're super tight. That's the case, and you're spending so much on your monthly rent that maybe you might want to consider downgrading to that 30%. My wife and I currently are in that 30%, and it is a huge blessing for us. Now, we have different, like I said, difficulties because we're small business owners. So, like, we're not only just paying for food and living, we're also paying for our stream, for the church ministry. It's a whole different story. But if you're inside that 30%, it's going to be a huge blessing for you. But are you living somewhere that you want to live, or living somewhere where you can actually afford? This is another one. And I've met a lot of people my age, I'm 26 years old, who I asked them this question: are you driving the car you want or the car you can afford? Because this is what we do. And a lot of times we all do it. All of us, we want to look good. It's just the reality. I don't know about you, but I don't wake up and go, man, I hope I look really bad today. I hope people think low of me. No, we all want to make good impressions, and we want to look good, and we want to have a good outward appearance to the rest of the world. But when this is so important to us that we're willing to put ourselves in financial struggle, that's where it's not worth it. I've seen so many people my age that they're out of college, they're beginning their professional career, and they don't want to drive a beat-up old car. So what do? They get a brand new car and a payment plan, and now they're paying $300-400 a month that they could have just simply spent way less money, bought a starter car. This is what Dave Ramsey teaches. Buy a starter vehicle, especially if you're young. I mean, the reality is, in our young age, we're not supposed to be at the top of our career. You don't just wake up and start at the top. God bless, my friend. 6 months of support. Can't thank you enough, man. All the way from the Netherlands. God bless, man. Appreciate that so much. Love you, dude. And the reality is, when we're young, we're not supposed to be at the top. I'm in the beginning of my career as a streamer, my career as a pastor. I've got 81 viewers. Amazing. You know why I don't have 81,000? Because I'm just starting. And that's the reality. But what I see so many times is people my age, they want to go out, they want to get a car and a payment plan because they want to drive to work and appear that they're doing really well. The reality is, Dave Ramsey teaches this principle, especially about cars. Get a starter car. Get a car that's going to get you from A to B, and every month that you're not spending $300-400, do that for 2 years. 2 years from now, you'll be able to buy yourself brand new cash, a $10,000 nice vehicle, cash, no debt, no credit, no nothing. And now you're driving a brand new car 2 years later because you were willing to put in the sacrifices. This is what he teaches, this principle. It's in the notes. Live like nobody wants to now, so you can live like nobody can later. I don't know about you, but I don't know many 26-year-olds that can say, I drove a crappy car for 2 years. I put all that money that I would have been spending every month on a brand new 2017 car, and all that money, I had $10,000 in the bank and bought a brand new car cash. That is what Dave Ramsey is trying to get in your minds. That, yeah, for 2 years, you're going to drive the car that nobody wants you to be driving. Like, nobody wants to pull up to work in that old station wagon. But then later, 2 years later, while your friends are all in debt, paying off their car, this is what he says. He says, we spend money we don't have to impress people we don't even like. We spend money we don't have to buy things we don't need to impress people we don't even like. And 2 years later, yeah, for those 2 years, you were driving a crappy station wagon. But then 2 years later, while your friends are not even close to paying off their vehicles, you're now driving a car just as nice as theirs, debt-free. Yeah, for 2 years, you had to suck it up, put your ego down, and be like, yeah, your car's better than mine. But now look at you. You're sleeping at night not going, how am I going to make this car payment? Because you walked in like a boss and pay to cash. But this takes time, takes sacrifice. And Dave Ramsey, dude, the dude knows what he's talking about, man. The dude he's helped millions of people get out of debt. And I want to encourage you, take his program. We're going to talk about a few things today he teaches, but go through his program, and it's incredible the things that you will learn. But when it comes to your savings, when it comes to your spending, are you in a constant habit of spending money on things that you just don't need? And if you can lower your monthly spending, you can increase your monthly saving. Here's some tips I got written down for you, something that honestly sometimes I do a little bit too much of and that I want to do a little bit more is you could drastically cut down your monthly expenses or outgo just by going out to eat less. This is something that I like to do. I like to go out to eat. My wife and I, when we're on the road, let's grab a quick bite. And it's like, yeah, $20, not $20, not going to break the bank, but $20 here, $20 there. It adds up. And before you know it, you've spent way too much money that you didn't really need to spend. And I do that often. This is something that I'm getting better at. But this is when it goes back to the budget. If you give yourself a budget of, okay, we can go out to eat this many times a month, then you still, you're enjoying life, but then you're not going over it. You're setting boundaries for yourself. That's something that we're currently getting better at. But Dave Ramsey teaches us, and it's incredible. Another tip, simply asking yourself, do I need this or do I just want this? And that's something that I need to ask myself every day. Susie, I know you want this upgrade for the stream and everything, and you could justify it. Well, it's for the ministry. But do you really need this or do you just want this? And that's something that I need to ask myself. And I want to encourage you, if you can really talk yourself out of getting things you don't want, you're going to save a ton of money. Financial personal success is very little about how much you make and really more so about how much you spend. You can make little, but if you're spending little, unfortunately, you're not going to drive as nice of a car as a millionaire. You're not going to wear as nice of clothes. You're not going to go to the movies as many times as someone with more money can. But here's the reality. Having fun and having nice things is not worth losing your peace over. It's not worth losing your sleep over. And if you can learn to spend responsibly, then this would be a huge blessing in your life. Another thing Dave Ramsey teaches is savings. Again, in the notes, if you're following along, if you're just popping in, here's a link in the chat for you to follow in the notes I prepared for you. But savings, this is a crucial thing that Dave Ramsey teaches, is when it comes to savings, you might right now have absolutely no money in your savings account. I forget the exact percentage because it's been a while since I took this course, but Dave Ramsey teaches, I think it's like 85% of people are okay with living month to month. What that means is that every single month they are ending with $0 left and didn't put any money in savings. Like their expenses are 100% of their income. So at the end of every month, they have $0 left. So they're getting by, but they're not getting ahead. And one of the things that he teaches is as quickly as possible, get $1,000 in your savings account. And that's difficult. That's difficult to do. My wife and I did this as quickly as we could. We cut things out, and finally we got $1,000 in the savings account. Now, here's one thing I want to give you is there is a link that Dave Ramsey has on his website, 10 ways to save $1,000 quickly. This stuff is no joke. And I want to encourage you, get on this link. I put it in the chat for you right there. 10 ways to save $1,000 quickly. I won't go through this with you because of our sake of time, but start budgeting. Drop some things. Make some sacrifices at first. So instead of spending money on other stuff, you're spending it on saving. Re-examine your bills. Maybe cut some things out. My wife and I did this. Do we really need Hulu and Netflix? Probably not. And this is incredible. I'm going to spam that link in the chat for you. Go through this link. 10 quick ways to get to $1,000 as quickly as humanly possible. I think that'll be a huge blessing to you. But another thing that he teaches is saving 20% of your monthly income. Spending 20% of your monthly income on saving. So in the budget, remember, you're giving every dollar a destination. You're telling dollar, you're going to go here. Dollar, you're going to go there. You're just telling it where it's going to go. And you have the freedom to tell it to go wherever you want, right? You can go out and eat some dinner. You can go out with your wife. You can go out and do anything you want, but just tell your money where to go. But sticking within these principles is going to give you that freedom. Dave Ramsey says that if you do his things that he says in his course, that you're going to feel like you got a raise. Because you're not just accidentally, fruitlessly spending money that you were like, man, I didn't realize I spent, $175 on coffee last month. How did that even happen? And because when you're not aware, you just spend and spend and spend. But if you're saving 20% of your monthly income, which seems like a lot, and some of us were like, hey, we can't do that. So what does that mean? That means in order to be able to do that, I've got to cut other things out to be able to make that happen. Because I don't want to reach 75 years old and have nothing to show for it. Dave Ramsey, again, says this: you work way too hard your entire life to reach the end of it and have nothing to show for it. And that's the truth, man. There are times in my life where I'm like, dude, I know we're trying to grow the stream and all this kind of stuff and investing in new cameras, but I've got to be careful, because if I focus so much on the now and forget about tomorrow, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, I've got nothing to show for all the hard work that I've done. I've got nothing to show for it. And putting monthly away, Dave Ramsey recommends 20%. 20% is huge. And that can be difficult. And in order to get there, maybe consider cutting down in other areas. All of this is going to make so much more sense if you're creating a budget. We talked about it last week. If you haven't seen it already, go to the YouTube channel and check that out. Spending properly, saving properly, getting that $1,000 in the bank account, because then you have a safety net. Some of us, like when my wife and I first took this course, we didn't have any money in savings. And we learned to get $1,000 as quickly as possible. And one of the examples he gives is like, okay, you're living month to month to month, and you're getting by, you're surviving. What happens if your car breaks down? I don't know, dude. And really, all this is helping us to prepare. Helping us to prepare. There's a quote I heard once: if you don't prepare, then you've got to repair, right? If you're living month to month and don't have any money in savings, your car breaks down, $1,000 to fix it, you don't have any in your savings. Now what do? Oh, well, I'll just use a credit card. Now you're in debt. Now your monthly expenses just went up because now you got to pay off that credit card every month. And this is how we get ourselves deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, here's what we're going to get. We're going to pause for a second, get into a little bit of something that's relevant to small business owners, streamers. The reason I want to talk about this, because I really do pray and believe that God has given some of you vision to do things that maybe no one's ever done before. I pray that God will give you insight, give you ideas to create something, create a small business, start doing something the world's never heard of. And a lot of starting your own career, starting your own business, starting your own stream, it's going to require you to manage not only your own personal money, your eating, your housing, but money for your business. And this is something that I have to do because as a streamer, of course, the stream supports my family with the income that it brings in, but I also put money back into it to improve it, make it better. We're, helping the ministry grow, all these kind of things. So how do I do things in my life, and how do small business owners navigate through this kind of stuff? Because the reality is, right, when we need a new camera, who pays for the camera? I pay for the camera with the money that comes in to the ministry, but I also need to navigate that money because I also need to use that same money for food, for water, electricity, my car, everything. So I've got to make sure I'm putting things in the right place, saving, putting things aside, all that kind of stuff to make sure. And as small business owners, you've got to ask yourself, are you budgeting for things you need? So it's smart to just put a little bit of money away every single month for things you're hoping to save up in the future. Same thing with your normal life. If you want to go on vacation every month, put away a little bit. The same thing for your business. Here's one thing that I think is crucial. Do you also have, money? Are you keeping in mind, what do I do if my computer breaks? Right? My whole life, I don't know if you can see it from this angle. I think you can. Pretty much my whole life rides on that computer. I'll try to get out of the way. Right there. If that thing breaks, what in the world am I going to do? And the reality is, computers break. They need upgrades. They die. We could have a power surge, fry the computer. So many things could happen. And if I'm not prepared for that, GG. Like, it's just done. And that's something that I have been thinking more through in my life. Susie, am I preparing for the future, or am I only preparing for the now? And these are things that I've got to start thinking about. Okay, dude, what happens if your computer breaks? Rah. And there's got to be money put aside for that. And as any small business owner, you've got to be prepared for that. You've got to be prepared for that. You've got to be budgeting for upgrades, budgeting for the future. Remember, don't just think about the now, think about your tomorrow. Think about your tomorrow in your personal life as a streamer in a small business. And I'm not going to go too deep into detail because in the budgeting that we talked about last week, again, if you're just popping in, check it out on the YouTube channel. It's all up there. We talked in detail about some things that as a streamer, you're going to want to budget for. You're going to want to think ahead for. We talked about more. But be mindful that if you're going to try to start something, it's going to require money. It's going to require money. It's going to require investment. It's going to require you to put away money. And it's also going to require you at times, especially in the startup, it's going to require you to say no to things in your personal life so you can say yes to something in your business life. My wife and I, as we wanted to invest and grow the stream, for the first 3 years, we said no in our personal lives to going away on a vacation, like, going on a trip to like Florida, Universal Studios, taking a your big idea of a vacation where you go away to somewhere, stay in a hotel, all that kind of stuff. We've said no to that for the first 3 years so we could invest in, what we're doing. That's part of the sacrifice. That's part of what it takes. So normally vacation, we go visit family, we hop in the car, we drive somewhere, we might spend 2 days in a hotel, small vacation, you make sacrifices. And those are things that you're going to have to budget because there might be times where you're like, there's not enough money for our personal lives to be booming and our business to be booming. And you've got to make some sacrifices. Okay, what's going to take the hit? Either our personal life or our business life. And you've got to decide if you want the business to succeed and boom, you're going to have to make temporary sacrifices in your personal life to put that money. Remember, money don't grow on trees. You've only got limited of it. I've only got limited of it. You've got to say, you know what? We're going to take it out of the personal life for a little bit, put it into the business, stream, career, whatever it is for you, so that this can grow. But eventually this is going to grow because you sacrificed to put time into it. And that is going to benefit back into your personal life. Those are sacrifices that you're going to have to make when you're starting something. And it's going to be something that's necessary for you if you want to build something that you're starting. And I pray that you will, because I really believe that there are people in this stream watching right now that God's giving you ideas that maybe scare you. God's giving you ideas that maybe you don't know if they're possible, but I do pray that God will give you opportunity and give you the bravery, give you the boldness to step out and do something, but it's going to require you to make some sacrifices. Another category of your money management, this is something that, especially if you're a follower of Jesus, that I want to encourage you, needs to be a definite in your life. And that's the area of giving. So many of us want to help people around us, but oftentimes we make giving and helping others something that we hope for rather than something that you plan for. Everyone would like to be able to say in their own life, yeah, I've helped people. Yeah, I've served people. I've given to people. And the reality is, we talked about this a little bit last week, that if you want to give, then put it in your budget. Put it in your budget that every month, I'd like to give away $20 a month. A real simple budgeting. My wife and I do this, that a simple way that you can budget giving money away to help someone else is we actually sponsor a child. Well, he's not technically a child. He's 18 years old. We had, I forget even what it was, but we had a guy do like an explanation of something called Compassion International. And they talked about all these kids who needed sponsoring, and he talked about how everyone wants to sponsor the cute little babies, but nobody wants to sponsor like the 16, 17, 18-year-olds because they're just not so cute and attractive anymore. They're like grown people. And I think they said once you pass age 16, there's like a 10% chance of you getting sponsored. So we were like, you know what? We want to sponsor the most unlikely person, the kid that's been waiting the longest. So I think he's 19 now. We started sponsoring him a year ago. $38 a month. You could sponsor a child. You could budget and be intentional about giving. It's not going to break the bank. It's not going to, it's not $500 a month, whatever it is that you can do. But look for a way that you can give, but give responsibly to where you're budgeting it. So it's literally, it's in our budget, and I have a whole, agenda at every dollar where it's going to go. And we have our sponsored child. We have our God Squad sponsored child, right? And it's in the budget. It's written down, $38 a month. So I'm prepared for it. I know, okay, come this date, I need to make sure I have $38 to send to this. And it's a budgeted way where you can give. And I want to encourage you. I really believe this principle 100%. I really, really, really believe this, that being blessed is not just an ability. Being blessed financially, some of you might make high incomes, and you're blessed. You have the ability to drive a nice car. You have the ability to go out to the movies more frequently than most of us. You have the ability to wear nice clothes. You have the ability to do this, and that. But I really believe the financial blessing is not an ability, it's a responsibility. That God doesn't just bless us so we can be blessed, but he blesses us so that we might be a blessing. And I want to encourage you, as you've been blessed, are you looking for opportunities to be a blessing to others? Are you setting aside income in your budget to be able to give? Whether it's spontaneous giving when I see a homeless man, or maybe it's whether, you look for someone every month to give $50, or you do a more budgeted giving. You want to sponsor a child. Are you looking for ways to give? Giving, I think, is something that's so crucial. We talked about this last week, that in your budget as a follower of Jesus, tithing is a non-negotiable. 10% of your income, the Bible teaches, as our faithfulness. Not that God needs your money, not that God hates you if you don't give, but as your worship and as your faithfulness to him, after all he's given you, are you willing to trust God enough and say, yes, I promise you that God wants to open up the doors of blessing in your financial life, but we can't expect God to bless our finances if we're not being faithful in our finances. And I want to encourage you, this giving is not including in your tithing, because tithing is a non-negotiable. Giving to your local church. And I want to encourage you, even above that, people say that tithing is an Old Testament. Oh, it doesn't matter anymore. And I actually would agree with that the tithing is an Old Testament teaching. Why? Because in the New Testament, Jesus taught that giving the tithe was the bare minimum. He said, yeah, you've heard before that tithing is good. I think it's good too, but I think it's the bare minimum. I think you should tithe and then give some more, because Jesus taught a heart of generosity where your money doesn't have you. You have money, but it don't have you. You're in control of it. It's not in control of you. And if you have such a hard time letting go of it, it's got a hold of you. And Jesus teaches the tithing is just a bare minimum. Go above the 10%. Yeah, give 10% to the local church, but then also look for other ways. Look for other ways to continue to give more. And I want to encourage you, giving is something to be a huge blessing. Abdul! God bless, my friend, and welcome to the God Squad. Incredible to have you here. Hope you're doing absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate it. God bless you, big guy. Good to have you in the Strummage. For anyone that's just popping in, amazing to have you here. We're talking about managing money, which I think is great for you. Another small thing in terms of taxes and things, kind of brush on this real quick. Something I'm learning about is that you can actually claim your taxes on a quarterly basis, especially if you're a streamer and a small business owner. So at the end of the year, people are like, oh, I sent my taxes in. I'm waiting for my tax return. I don't get tax returns. I give taxes because I don't have paychecks that the government is taking money out every month. At the end of the year, I have to pay taxes. So I'm actually about to look into, I just learned this recently, maybe just a tip for somebody that I didn't know, that you can pay taxes quarterly. Because I want to start doing that, because instead of waiting till the end of the, till the tax time and having to send the government a large amount of money that you weren't giving throughout the year, you can give little by little throughout every quarter, and then it's not going to hurt as much. That's something I want to do. Another question just to touch on, because a lot of people ask this question, in terms of tithing. Do I tithe off my net or do I tithe off my gross? I encourage people to do this. I think it's a really easy way to do it. Tithe off what you take home every single week. So if you make $500 a week, but then some of you are like, $500 a month? How does anyone survive? If you make $500 a week, but you only take on, maybe you take home $420, $425, let's say. I would say tithe off the $425, but then at the end of the year, when you get your tax return, just tithe 10% of that. Easy. So many people get caught up and, net or gross, Tithe off what you take home throughout the year. Then when you get your tax return, just tithe 10% of that. Easy conversation, easy peasy. Don't freak yourself out. Don't get too caught up in it. Easy. Tithe off your what you take home. Tithe off your net. Then when you get your tax return, just tithe that. Tithe 10% of whatever it is. You get a $1,000 tax return, just tithe $100. Easy peasy. I've seen a lot of people get really, really kind of flustered about that. Easy peasy. I love it. Kyle Saunders, that's what you did. Paul Champs in the chat, please. There's another big topic I want to talk about today before we end our time, and then I want to ask us a few questions. And this one is debt. Debt is a killer. And the reason that I wanted to talk about this from the perspective of a small business owners is that sometimes in business owning, that there's going to be times where debt is used because you got to spend money to make money. But it's dangerous because if you're allowing debt, then that can get real dangerous. Dave Ramsey teaches a no debt principle. No debt. He has a joke that's hilarious. He doesn't do debt. He doesn't use credit cards. Doesn't go in debt at all. So therefore, his FICO score, which has to do with your credit, is awful. Now, Dave Ramsey is a multi-millionaire, and he's gotten there because of his smart money decisions. And then obviously, this business that he started has been really successful for him. So funny. He has this story where he wanted to prove a point of how kind of dumb FICO and credit scores are, right? And he goes up to just a normal apartment, and he signs a waiver, but he hadn't used credit in so many years that he didn't have a FICO score, didn't have a credit score, and he's a multi-millionaire. Let's go! Let's go! Thank you so much, my friend, and welcome. Wait, I don't know what I'm talking about. I love you, man. 7 months. Thanks for being awesome. Praying for you in the ministry. I love you, bro. Appreciate you, dude. Thanks so much, man. So Dave Ramsey, this millionaire, fills out this like rental application for like a small normal apartment, and he gets denied because he doesn't use credit, so therefore in a credit score, gets denied, and he tells the lady, so he's like, so you're telling me that I have enough money to buy this entire apartment complex, the whole thing, cash, right now, but you won't let me rent an apartment. It's like I died. When I heard that, I died laughing. And the reality is that so many of us are drowning in debt. We can't get ahead. And he teaches a great thing called Debt Snowball. And I want to encourage you to go to his website and check that out. Debt Snowball is crucial to getting out of debt quick. Super crucial, paying down your debt little by little. He gives you a step-by-step plan on how to get out of debt. Crucial. I want to send you guys there again. Financial Peace. Browse around this website. It's incredible. We don't have time to go into the entire debt program. Yo, Vital G, God bless, my friend, and welcome to the God Squad. Hope you're encouraged today. We're talking about how to manage money. Some tips that I've learned along my journey of studying from some financial experts. And as a gamer, I wanted to share that with the gamer community because as gamers and as normal people, we all have money. So instead of letting our money control us, let's control it. As gamers, we love to win. Why not win with our money? And debt, the reality is so many of us are so quick to go into debt. And one of the questions that we need to ask ourselves, if you're following along in the notes, if not, I'll get that link for you in the chat. And the notes I prepared for all of you, is this question: are you being smart by avoiding this principle? Avoid this principle right here. Buy now, pay later. Again, that lifestyle of, am I living the life that I want or living the life that I can actually afford on paper? And this is what we do. We want to buy things that we can't afford to impress people that we don't even like. We buy things we can't afford, things we don't even need. And we put ourselves in debt. Put ourselves in debt for no reason. And sooner or later, you're drowning in it. You're drowning and burying yourself little by little. And there's so much that goes into debt. They say that, I think it's average American college student graduates with like $48,000 of debt. That's true. That is very, very, very true. College debt is a killer. I know people in their 40s still paying off their debt. I've got a long way to go before my wife and I finishing off our college debt. My wife and I went to North Point Bible College. It's my bachelor's degree up there, and we're not even close. We're not even close. We're making leeway, but we're not even close. And I wanted to give a few tips, especially about college debt, because it's something my wife and I know very, very, unfortunately, too well about. There's going to be an opportunity that's going to sound very, very, very pleasing to you, and I want to caution you to not take it unless you absolutely have to. It's called consolidating your loans. Some of you have heard of this. If you're in high school, this might be a new principle to you. Some of you that are in debt, consolidating your loans, essentially, they say average American student spends $280 a month on their college loans. That's true for some people, not true for others. And consolidating your loans, what it's going to do is going to look really pleasing to you, because it's going to be like, hey, if you consolidate your loans, we can take your monthly payment from $280 to $115. And it's like, what? That's amazing. Sign me up. But what you don't know is you haven't read the small print. You haven't done the math. It skyrockets your interest, skyrockets all those things. And I did the math one time because I was considering consolidating my loans, because honestly, they're a killer, dude. I want to punch them in the face. And long term, it was going to add another $27,000 to my total debt payoff. When I saw that, I almost took my monitor and just threw it out the window, okay? I was like, this is borderline thievery. And it looked so pleasant because my wife and I combined monthly loans was going to get cut by like 40%. And then but here's what they don't expect you to do. Most people don't go to the very end. They don't read the small print, and they don't do all the math. And I was like, this is borderline thievery. Some people have to do this because they simply cannot make enough money to pay their college debt. That's why with the budgeting, before you consolidate your loans, sacrifice everything else you can. If you got to stop going out with your friends, stop going out with your friends. If you got to stop paying for your WoW subscription, stop paying for whatever you got to do. Do not consolidate your loans unless you absolutely have to. You will shoot yourself in the foot, and once you do it, you cannot undo it. Once you do it, you cannot undo it. Please do not, unless you absolutely have to, consolidate your loans. You will regret it. You'll be paying them off for X amount of longer years, and you will pay such an exponential more amount of money. Unless you absolutely, that's my one tip in terms of college debt. Do not consolidate your. It's gonna look so appealing. Man, I could save $97 a month. And then here's what we do, right? Well, you know what I could do with $97 a month? I could buy this and that, and then we end up saving this money and then throwing it away. Then it's gone. What about zero interest debt? Like a student with a Toyota to finance my new car with 0%. Well, if you've got a 0% college loan, please tell me where you got it, because I would love to get it, because most loans are not 0%. That's a completely different conversation. If there's no interest, no percent on it, that's totally different. Then you're just paying back what's called your principal. But 99.9% of college loans have interest, and sometimes they're really high. Getting out of debt quick and being smart to not do things like consolidate loans. Dave Ramsey teaches a no credit card. I know most of you are not going to go for that. Please do not have more than one. Dave Ramsey, that's his professional advice. Here's my little more realistic advice, because I know some of you will be like, forget that. I'm never gonna not have a credit card. If you're not gonna listen to Dave Ramsey and you're gonna have a credit card, at least only have one and don't max it out. Try not to stay above 40%. If you're gonna have a credit card, please use them responsibly. Pay them off every month, but try not to go above 40% of your total your credit line. Otherwise, it's going to start affecting your credit. Debt is dangerous. It can be used for your favor, but unfortunately, most of the world doesn't use it for their favor. If you're going to have a credit card, use it wisely. Use it to build your credit. Like right now, we're trying to build my wife's credit a little bit, because I've actually made a mistake in our whole marriage. I've done everything in my name with my my credit, all my kind of stuff. So I've built my credit. So I've actually, thank God, I've got really good credit right now. But my wife doesn't, not because she's made financial mistakes, but she just hasn't done anything to build credit. So she's like a 17-year-old who just got out of high school and doesn't have any credit, because I've made the mistake of not sharing that credit with my wife and putting certain bills in her names and things like that. So now we are switching things around and being like, crap, I've let my wife not go anywhere. And at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal because we're married and we can always just use mine. But building both of your credits rather than one, that's what I've learned. Don't just build one of your credit, build both of your credit by having certain bills in her name, certain bills in my name. And so that's a mistake that I made that I'm currently fixing. No damage really done because we're still together. But, God forbid, right? If I die, then my wife is only left with her credit. And right now her credit's not great. Like I said, not because she made mistakes. She's actually really never had anything to affect her credit. But because I didn't do a proper job as a husband to build her credit in ways that would have helped her. Building credit is key. I want to end our time by asking ourselves a few questions. And this is really the overarching question that really honestly got me thinking. That got me thinking big time. Simple question, especially if you're a follower of Jesus. Is God proud of the way that I use my money? Very simple question, but it'll get you thinking. Is God proud of the way that I use and manage my money? And I asked myself that question. And if I was honest, I was like, I think I'd say kinda. But that could be more. It could be more. And I want you to ask yourself that question. Is God proud of the way you use your money? Are you being responsible? Are you saving? Are you giving to others? Here's the reality. God is your heavenly Father, for those of you that have given your lives to follow Jesus. And God does take joy in when you are living life to the fullest. So yeah, God takes joy when you're out with friends, having a good time, obviously doing something that's good and safe. But it's that moment where, okay, God, well, God likes when I'm blessed to an extent when it's responsible. When you start stepping into that, well, God likes when I have fun, to where you're in debt, you're not paying off your bills, then that's not making God proud. But if you're balancing everything well to where you're saving, paying off debt, giving, living your own life, paying your bills, that's managing your money in a way that makes God proud. And when I look at my life and my month to month, and I ask myself, is God proud of the way I use my money? For me, I'd say kinda. And I'm like, man, there's a lot of room for improvement. I feel like I could be doing more. And for me personally, I really want to grow in how I manage my money. Honestly, preparing these teachings has made me realize, you know what, I could be doing more. I could be using my money better in saving, navigating, paying for the ministry, giving, and I want to get better because I want God to be proud of the way I use my money. Is God proud of the way you use your money? Am I being responsible? Some other questions in the notes if you're looking on. Am I being responsible? Am I being a good example to others around me of what it looks like to manage money well? Are you living an example? Am I living an example that when people see me, am I being a good example of what it looks like to manage money well? That doesn't mean that you're driving a nice car. It means that you're showing good principles, what the Bible says, to be a good steward. That when you get around your friends, are you concerned with them knowing that your car's nice? Or concerned with them knowing that you're living stress-free in terms of your money? No life is stress-free. In terms of your money, that you're giving, that you're being responsible. Another thing, that you're tithing, and that you're being generous. Are you known as someone that's responsible with your money, or as someone that's always scrounging for more money? Are you known as someone that's generous? Are you known as someone that tithes? Are you known as someone that gives? Are you known as someone that's not in debt? Someone that's always on top of their bills? And all of that comes with having a good budget, giving every dollar a destination. And if you can manage to do these things, you'll be able to answer the question, is God proud of the way you use your money? And that's something I want to ask myself and get better at personally. Because lastly, I want to understand this principle here, is that ultimately God is the king of my finances. It's written in the notes if you're following along. Ultimately, God is the king of my finances. And this is big. This is real big, because once you understand that everything that you have is what God has given you, that God has blessed you with, you'll begin to see your money different. Why should I give money away every single month? Because all that I have belongs to God. And I want to follow him and be generous. So therefore, I'm not even giving my money away. I am giving what God has given me, and I'm using it responsibly, using it generously. And once you begin to view your money and understand that God is the king of my finances, you're asking yourself, if you were to allow someone to borrow money with the intent of taking that money and doing something good with it, and then you came back to them a year later and they had blown most of it on a bunch of crap, they didn't do anything good, they had way less than you had given them in the first place, wouldn't you be upset that they weren't using the money that you had given them responsibly? In the same way that this is how God is asking us. God has given us 100% of what we have, and he's asking us to be a good manager of it, a good steward. Are we using it well? Are we being responsible? Are we blessing others? Are we tithing? Are we giving our family the best life that we can? Or are we, living at 90% of our income and we only have $3 at the end of the month? Is God proud of the way that you use his finances? That's a big question that all of us need to chew on, and all of us need to ask ourselves as we think about how to manage money, that we're not just managing our own money, we're managing God's money that he's given us and that he has entrusted to us. But if you would take the principles that we've talked about here, I believe that if we'll take them and practice them, not just take them and know them, but take them and actually do them, that we can live a life that honors God with the way we spend our money. It's something I want to improve at. I think it's something that many of us can improve at. And I want to encourage you again, I'm going to bring you back to Dave Ramsey, that don't just go through what we talked about. Check out his website. Check out this course called Financial Peace. I think it'll be a ginormous blessing to you. Ginormous blessing to you. It's an investment. It is not free. It is an investment. But here's the reality. You're making an investment in your future by using a little bit of money to learn how to use a lot of money. Because the reality is that no matter what amount of money you make, you're going to make a lot of money throughout the rest of your life. If you're here and you're making what is considered in the USA the poverty line, $25,000 a year, that is considered the poverty line. Even if you're only making that a year, let's say you make that for the next 10 years. The reality is you're obviously going to work more than 10 years. You're going to work probably for 50 years. $25,000 a year times 10, $250,000 times 5, right? That's that's $1.25 million. That is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. So you're going to spend a little bit of money to learn how to better manage the huge amount of money you're going to make in your lifetime. And these things are big, man. Dave Ramsey says it like this: you work too hard to reach the end of your life and have nothing to show for it. I don't want to reach the end of my life. Said, man, I didn't know how to manage money, and now I've got none of it. I don't know how I'm going to retire. I don't want to reach the end of my life and have nothing to show for it. And I hope that today has been, again, a small glimpse. Dave Ramsey is an excellent financial expert. Go through his website. Take some of those practices we talked about today. Spending responsibly. Saving $1,000. There's a link in the notes if you haven't seen it already on how to save $1,000 quickly. Getting out of debt. Making sure you're giving. Practicing as a follower of Jesus. Tithing. Getting out of debt. But ultimately asking yourself that question: am I using my money in a way that makes God proud? If you do these things, I promise you, you'll reach the end of your month and you won't be freaking out. You won't be like, what am I going to do? Because you already planned what you're going to do. You had the budget. And I promise you, this will leave you free. This will leave you feeling, Dave Ramsey says it, feeling like you got a raise. It's not actually that you're making more money. It's that you're not losing money without any control over it. Man, I didn't realize I spent $300 last month on sandwiches, on going out to lunch, on going out to dinner. I didn't realize I did that. When you're telling your money where to go and also telling your money where not to go, you're going to feel like you have more of it. You're going to feel like you're being blessed because you're being responsible, doing what God called you to do. And even if you're not a follower of Jesus, I'm so glad you're here. But money is something you're all going to navigate through. Hope you guys have been blessed for today's Learning Life and Leadership. Next week, we're changing it up a little bit. Not going to be talking about money anymore, but continuing every single Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Come back. Check it out for Learning Life and Leadership. If you missed any of the prior, go check them out on YouTube. Hope you guys are blessed. I love it. I love it. I love it.